A frigid October evening in 1963. The Smiths Grove Sanitarium looms under storm cloud skies, its barred windows flickering with lantern light. Inside, Dr. Samuel Loomis stands over a small cot. His patient, Michael Myers, 6 years old, hair tangled, eyes void of innocence. Michael stares at his hands, the knuckles white around toy blocks. Loomis's voice is measured yet urgent. No pure heart can destroy evil, he intones. Michael's gaze drifts to a plaster clown on the dresser, its painted grin twisted in his mind. The child shifts, center the room's dim glow, then bolts upright. Night staff rush in. Michael is gone. Nurse ties undone, punctured screen. Loomis grabs a flashlight and races down corridors slicked with antiseptic smells. Doors clatter behind him. Wards lie empty. He finds Michael's jumpsuit crumpled on the floor, small footprints leading to the courtyard. Outside, wind tears at Loomis's coat as he follows the trail. The sanitarium's iron gates stand open, welcoming Michael into dark fields. Loomis fires his gun, a single shot rattling in the night. He reaches the fence just as the silhouette of Michael fades into woods. Cut to Haddonfield, Illinois. Water towers cast long shadows over silent streets. Children trick-or-treat by lamplight, laughter echoing under harvest moons. Loomis, breath ragged, arrives at the station house. He bursts in, deputy at his side. He's our patient. He's pure evil, and he's had 6 years to practice. Faces blanch at the weight of his warning. Loomis slams a file on the desk. Psychotic homicidal child, now grown. He remembers everything. The deputy exchanges a look. Outside, the wind carries a single note of menace, the scraping of metal against pavement. In the distance, a figure in white mask drifts under street lamps, shoulders stiff as iron. Michael Myers has returned to Haddonfield, the place of his birth and first crime, beginning anew the silent pattern of stalking and slaughter that will turn a quiet town into a trap of terror. Laurie Strode settles into a familiar evening routine in Haddonfield, Illinois, the kind of night she spent countless times before. It's Halloween, and by mid-afternoon the streets are lined with carved pumpkins flickering behind screen doors. Bicycles rest on front lawns trimmed with fallen leaves. The sun dips low, painting suburban rooftops in amber light. After school, Laurie and her friend Annie Brackett empty candy bowls at the Brackett house. They fill orange mesh buckets with miniature chocolate bars and sweet tarts, greeting trick-or-treaters through flickering porch lamps. Annie teases Laurie about her plans. Another night of babysitting Strode? Laurie shrugs, voice calm. It's easy money. Besides, I've got books to read when the kids fall asleep. By early evening, Laurie robes herself in a pastel sweater and pleated skirt. Nothing like the flamboyant costumes parading the neighborhood. She dials her older sister's number. No answer. She leaves a message about supply runs and curfew reminders, then slips into her car for the short drive to the Duncan residence. The Duncan home stands at the end of Everett Street, its lawn a tableau of autumn. Tombstones cut from plywood, white gauze wafting around porch pillars. Laurie parks and checks her watch. 7 o'clock. The younger Duncans, Linda and Bob, rush to the door in matching ghost sheets, their laughter carried on the crisp night air. Laurie ushers them in, reviewing rules. No phone calls except emergencies, lights off by 10, and don't go outside after dark. Inside, the house is warm and brightly lit. Laurie tucks oversized blankets around the children on the family room couch, pops their favorite cartoons on the TV, and stacks board games on the coffee table. She smooths the blanket over Bob's knees, he's only 10, and watches Linda, 13, settle cross-legged with a cheesy horror anthology. The girls banter about spooky stories, and Laurie offers a polite critique of special effects. Her tone light. Outside the window, street lamps emit a soft glow, casting skeletal tree branches over empty sidewalks. Leaves drift across cracked pavement. Laurie's gaze drifts to the shadows between mailboxes, long, angular shapes that vanish almost as soon as she notices them. She shakes off the unease and returns to her knitting, looping yarn in practiced hands. At 8:30, the doorbell rings again. Laurie answers to find Ben Tramer, a neighborhood kid with a festive pirate costume. His painted-on eye patch peels at the corner. "Trick or treat," he says, voice muffled. Laurie drops candy bars into his bucket and offers a smile. He lingers, adjusting his parrot prop. "Nice mask," he says with a nod toward Laurie's uncostumed face. She frowns thoughtfully. No mask, just her plain features. Before she can respond, Ben scuttles back into the night. Laurie closes the door, glancing at the lock. Strange. Door warnings never get delivered here. She shakes her head, attributing it to too many horror movies. She checks on the Duncans. Linda is dozing, Bob fully asleep with one arm draped over a pillow. Laurie dims the lights and settles at the kitchen island, sipping hot cider. She reviews her college application essays on a dog-eared tablet. The warm steam fogging the screen. At 9:30, the kitchen's silence deepens. The wind howls outside, rattling window panes. Laurie tenses at each creak. The refrigerator door closing itself, a distant thump against the back wall. She stands and walks to the living room, peering down the dark hallway. Nothing moves. She exhales, shoulders relaxing. When the clock strikes 10, Laurie flicks off the TV and gathers the Duncans under one blanket. She checks her watch. 10:30. She steps onto the front porch to fetch her coat from the car. In the cool air, the street is deserted. Halloween revelers have vanished. Porch lights along Everett Street blink off one by one, as if marking time. Laurie slips her coat on and steps back inside, only to catch sight of a shadow flit across the wall behind her. She spins, heart thudding. Nothing there but the edge of a tree limb etched by the porch light. Chalk it up to trick or treat sugar, she thinks, returning to the couch. As Laurie smooths a blanket over Linda's shoulders, a gust of wind rattles the front door. She rises, palming the lantern-style light switch. The door frame stands empty. Laurie stares down the darkened walkway, a flicker of unease knotting her chest. Halloween's sweet veneer cracks for just a moment, an almost imperceptible promise that tonight, nothing will remain safe in Haddonfield. Dr. Loomis slams the hood of his car in the Smith's Grove Sanitarium parking lot, breath visible in cold night air. He spent years chasing the boy behind bars, yet tonight, 6 silent blows rocked his world. In the ward's dim hallway, monitors lie shattered, restraints torn from steel brackets. Nurses' stations stand deserted, charts scattered like fallen leaves. Loomis races through corridors, retracing Michael's path. The juvenile killer has eluded every guard. A single uniform sleeve hangs from a vent, blood spattered across the floor. He pauses to examine a set of small footprints, barefoot, child-sized, leading into the pharmacy. A shattered bottle of sedatives lies broken on the tile, pills spilled like deadly confetti. Loomis's heart thunders. Michael used them to disable staff before slipping into the night. Outside, storm clouds shroud a blood-red moon. Loomis jumps into the idling car and floors the accelerator. He follows hospital security cams on the dashboard monitor, only to see Michael's masked silhouette vanish into the woods beyond the perimeter fence. The car's tires spin on gravel as Loomis swerves onto the service road. Sirens wailing in the distance as guards discover the empty cell. Loomis barrels through thick underbrush, flashlight beam fractured by fluttering leaves. He calls Michael's name, every step echoing in the stillness. Branches whip at his coat. The wind sighs through frozen pines. There, footprints in a dribble of mud, leading toward Haddonfield's highway. Michael moves with uncanny purpose. No stumble betrays the years of silence inside. His white mask reflects Loomis's flashlight as Loomis catches sight across a shallow ravine. Loomis draws his gun, hand steady despite his pounding pulse. "Michael," he yells. The silhouette tilts its head, as if curious. Then it slips into darkness. Loomis pounds down the highway toward Haddonfield, a quaint town of lampposts and white picket fences. Trick-or-treaters swarm sidewalks, oblivious to the shape that follows them through shadows. Loomis's car glides past jack-o'-lanterns flickering behind screen doors. He glimpses costumed children, a witch, a vampire, a pirate. Michael observes from the tree-lean a phantom in gray overalls. Inside an abandoned house on Carlton Street, Michael pauses behind a sagging door. The wallpaper peels, revealing cracked plaster. A single jack-o'-lantern sits on the porch, its jagged grin flickering. Michael steps into the glow, mask faceless in the orange light. He removes the jack-o'-lantern's lid, tilts it over his head, slipping out of sight like a phantom. Loomis arrives, screeching to a halt on Carlsberg Drive. Costumed revelers scatter as he leaps from the car. He scans houses. Each window glows warm, oblivious of the danger. He enters the abandoned house, automatic weapon drawn. The floorboards creak beneath his boots. Every sound amplified in the warp of fear. He sees the lantern on the floor, pumpkin light flickering in a silence so complete it stuns him. Then a whisper, fabric brushing against wood, and Michael emerges from a back room, mask smudged with candle wax. Loomis shouldered his weapon. "Michael," he growls, "don't make me hurt you." Michael tilts his head, unblinking. In a sudden lunge, Michael charges. Loomis fires 3 shots. The first tears through Michael's chest, the second cracks his skull, and the third fragment shatters a nearby window. Michael collapses into shattered glass, lifeless for a heartbeat, then shudders, rising again, mask intact, eyes void of pain. Loomis staggers back, stunned. He levels his gun. Click, no rounds left. Michael shifts closer, each step deliberate, unstoppable. Loomis takes a final breath and presses the barrel to Michael's temple. A single shot echoes through night. Michael's body falls limp. Outside, autumn leaves drift down as Loomis stands over the motionless form. The jack-o'-lantern's grin catches his eye, a silent sentinel over evil that defied bullets. In the distance, children's laughter drifts like a taunt. Loomis holsters his empty gun and turns toward Haddonfield's sleeping houses, the weight of what he's witnessed settling in his bones. That night, Haddonfield's quiet streets masked a growing tension. In the small brick schoolhouse on Elm Street, Miss Chambers stands at her desk, finalizing lesson plans under a desk lamp's glow. Her chalk-white hair falls in waves as she straightens papers. The last of her colleagues have gone home, and only the hush of empty classrooms remains. Outside, gibbons of children's laughter drift from distant trick-or-treater groups. Down the corridor, Michael Myers emerges from the darkened hallway, mask stark against pale skin. He glides toward the exit, silhouette swallowed by the moonlit parking lot. Miss Chambers steps into the hallway, pauses as she senses a presence, an inexplicable chill chasing down her spine. She opens the door alone, turning the handle with a soft click. In the parking lot, Michael stands over a slumped figure, another teacher who exited moments before. Blood pools beneath him, glossing the asphalt. Miss Chambers' gasp echoes through the silent night. Before she can retreat, Michael's mask twists in her peripheral vision. He grips her arm with iron force and uses the butcher knife recovered from the Myers home. The blade glints once, then plunges into her chest with a sickening gasp. Her purse tumbles from her hand as she collapses, eyes wide with incomprehension. Michael steps back, expression unreadable behind the mask. He watches as Miss Chambers' blood blossoms on the pavement, then turns and melts into shadows, leaving only the echo of his departure in the empty lot. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of town, a couple, Bob and Linda Simmons, stroll hand in hand toward Loomis's parked car, hoping for a spontaneous late-night drive. The air is crisp, and Linda laughs at Bob's comment about ghost stories. They pause at the Service Road entrance, unaware of the masked figure crouched in the brush above. Michael approaches silently, knife in hand. Bob senses something. He turns to see Michael's silhouette advancing under the moonlight. Heart pounding, Bob ushers Linda back toward the car. She fumbles for her keys as Michael bursts into view, knife raised. Bob lunges forward, grabbing Linda's hand. They sprint across the pavement, but Michael's stride is inhumanly swift. At the car's door, Linda slides inside and frantically yanks the lock. Bob turns, bracing to defend them. Michael's knife appears, catching lamplight as he raises it above his head. Bob presses against the door, but Michael's arm crashes through the window in a spray of glass. The blade finds Bob's throat, blood arcs, landing on the steering wheel. Bob collapses, lifeless, across the seat. Linda screams, slamming her foot on the gas. The engine roars to life, and she gunned the car forward. Michael kneels on the hood. His weight cracks the windshield. He plunges a knife into the glass, its tip glinting as Linda swerves off the road, tearing through hedges until she escapes into darkness. In the sudden stillness, taillights fade down the road, leaving Bob's body half hidden under a shattered windshield and Linda's panicked sobs carried away by the autumn breeze. Fun fact number 1. Director John Carpenter's budget constraints led to many of Michael Myers' first kills being staged at night with minimal lighting, intentionally obscuring the killer's movements and heightening suspense through shadow and suggestion rather than explicit gore. Back in Haddonfield, news broadcast crackle on radio waves. 3 murders on Halloween night, a killer in a white mask. Residents advised to stay indoors. Parents pulled children off porches, locking doors against unseen terror. Laurie Strode at the Duncan house. Hears the interrupted TV broadcast through the thin walls. Her hand tightens on the remote as the newsreader's voice trails off. Laurie's breath hitches. The hush of the night, once comforting, now feels oppressive. She steps to the window, flashlight in hand, peering down the silent street. Porch lights are extinguished, and only a single jack-o'-lantern flickers 2 houses down. In her mind, storytelling logic unravels. The world she thought she knew is fractured, revealing something dangerous lurking in the dark. Laurie settles the Duncans under blankets, their eyelids heavy. Linda, her best friend, joins quietly on the couch, handing Laurie a bowl of popcorn. The television drones in the background, flickering images of Halloween revelers and news updates. Laurie's eyes drift to the front window. Autumn leaves swirl across the driveway, and the street lamps cast long, skeletal shadows. At 10:30, Laurie checks the clock. A knock rattles the door. She opens to find Annie Brackett and Linda's friend Lila Strode, Linda's older sister, hooded in black cloaks as witches. They slip inside, chattering about costume parties. At the top of the stairs, Laurie cautioned them, "Be careful driving. The roads are slick." Linda trots downstairs, joining the others. They settle in the living room, laughing at silly TV commercials and trading candy. Outside, the wind gusts, rattling shutters. Inside, a cordless phone rests on the end table. Laurie eyes it, but returns to her knitting. Annie flicks off the TV. "Let's play charades," she suggests. Bob Sim swoops into the door unannounced, his vampire cape dragging across the hardwood. Linda's eyes sparkle. She relishes this night of mischief. They move to circle on the floor. Bob, Linda, Annie, Laurie, and Lila. The TV's glow dims to black as the circle tightens. Each friend guesses silent prompts, their laughter echoing through the quiet house. Suddenly, the lights flicker. Laurie's knitting needles clink against one another. She stands, checking the fuse box in the kitchen. A routine task until a snarl from the hallway freezes her blood. She peeks around the corner. Nothing but a hallway dimly lit by the street lamp. She returns to the group, settling beside Annie. "You okay?" Annie asks. Laurie nods, shrugging, the guessing resumes. But Laurie's heart pounds each time the door rattles from a stray gust. As Bob leans forward to pantomime murderer, a shift in the circle's energy arrests Laurie's attention. She glances up at the staircase. A pale shape stands motionless under the screen door, mask featureless, overalls stark white. Instinct makes her duck. When she tests her gaze again, the shape is gone. Bob finishes the charade, startled by Laurie's gasp. Lila laughs it off. "Just shadows," Lila says, but Laurie's unease lingers. Suddenly, a scream shatters the game. The group races toward the street-lit foyer. Linda's scream rises again, piercing. They rush outside onto the porch. Annie hollers Annie's name. The front yard is empty. The jack-o'-lantern on the porch tilts, a flicker of flame gone. Bob dashes toward the Myers house across the street, where he glimpsed Michael's silhouette minutes before. Laurie grabs her coat. "We have to follow," she says. Linda stands frozen, tears in her eyes. Inside, a corded phone off the receiver lies tangled on the hall rug, lint catching red sparks under overhead light. Annie grabs Laurie's arm. "Don't you dare," she whispers, but Laurie's resolve is iron. Outside, the autumn wind roars. Laurie, Bob, and Annie jog down driveways, past darkened windows. Across the street, the old Myers house stands black against a stuttering street lamp. Bob steps onto the porch, flashlight trembling in his hand. The front door hangs open. He pushes inside. Annie and Laurie follow, each footstep echoing on warped floorboards. Inside, dust motes drift in flashlight beams. The walls are bare, wallpaper peeling in thin strips. Laurie's breath comes fast as she scans rooms. A single stuffed clown's head in the corner, its painted grin faint in the beam. In the hallway, Michael emerges from the shadows behind a partially open door. His mask glints. His knife reflects the light. He raises his hand, pointing the knife at Bob. Bob skids backward. Annie screams and turns to run, only to collide with something steel-hard. She tumbles across the floor. A chilling laugh echoes as Michael lunges at Bob. The world goes red. Bob screams, the scrape of knife on wood, then a sickening thud. Laurie's scream echoes in the empty house. She lunges forward, grabbing Michael's arm and forcing the weapon aside. He turns, mask unwavering, and hands pivot like a windmill. Laurie darts down the hallway, stumbling past warping doors. Annie crawls to Bob's body, blood pooling on the floorboards. Michael stands at the top of the staircase, breathing steady. Laurie backpedals, tears streaming. The Duncan's TV light flickers through a window behind her, reminder of safety beyond these walls. She bolts to the back door, fists bashing the knob until it gives way. Outside, Annie reaches Laurie's side, shaking. Bob's body lies in the hallway doorway, still. Linda runs up, breathless. She gasps at the sight, then turns as the police car's red lights flash down the street. Sirens wail in the distance. Laurie collapses to her knees, as if the sudden calm steals her breath. The wind catches Linda's hair, and Annie grips her shoulder. They stare at the old Myers house, black, silent witness to the night's carnage. In the silence that follows, Laurie realizes Michael's shadow still lingers in every memory, every heartbeat. Halloween's innocence is shattered. Suburban safety dissolves in the face of pure, unrelenting evil. By midnight, Dr. Samuel Loomis roars through Haddonfield's deserted streets in his beat-up Buick, headlights cutting through drifting fog. His face is taut with resolve and exhaustion, years of dogged pursuit distilled into this one night. Sirens wail ahead as he rounds a corner and spots flashing red lights at the Anderson residence. Inside, Sheriff Brackett and deputies comb the yard, looking under porches and behind shrubs. Loomis jumps from the car, coat flapping, and approaches the sheriff. Michael Myers is here, he hisses. He's killed at least 3 people tonight. The deputies exchange uneasy glances. In their barricaded houses, they've heard rumors but never believed them, until now. Loomis strides toward the house's back porch. The screen door hangs loose, its mesh ripped. A trail of blood smears the threshold. He steps inside, gun drawn, only to find evidence of struggle. A shattered lamp, a flicked-over chair, and a splatter of crimson on pale carpet. No body. Outside, Loomis draws on a cigarette. He glances down Allen Street. Windows dark, lawn strewn with Halloween debris. Plastic skeletons tangled in broken candy buckets. His instincts guide him back to the Buick. He must follow Michael's trail before another family falls. Loomis floors the accelerator and veers onto Hawthorne Drive. Up ahead, a lone figure stands under a flickering street lamp, white mask reflecting sodium glow. Loomis brakes, heart thudding. Michael's head tilts, as though curious. Loomis slams the door and presses through the rain-slicked street. Michael. Loomis calls, voice strained. You can't hide in shadows. You can't escape your evil. Michael's silhouette remains still for a heartbeat, then dissolves into the night, vanishing behind a row of houses. Loomis follows on foot, stepping over smudged jack-o'-lanterns and tangled garlands. He reaches a Myers house at the end of Lawrence Street, its old picket fence sagging, lawn littered with discarded candy wrappers. The front door is slightly ajar, revealing an empty hallway lit by the dying glow of a porch light. He enters cautiously. The floorboards creak underfoot, settling under his weight. In the living room, walls are bare, save for a lone portrait of a smiling family, torn and stained. Loomis lifts his shotgun, scanning every shadow. The silence settles like a shroud. A sudden crash upstairs. A door slams. Loomis's blood runs cold. He ascends a narrow stairwell, each step a test of resolve. At the top, doors line a dim hallway. One sits half open, its handle dangling. Loomis pushes it gently. Inside, a small bedroom cluttered with mannequins stands in grotesque tableau. Limbs splayed, heads tilted, clothing tattered. In the corner, a static television flickers, showing Laurie's face on a channel she switched to earlier. The screen shows her terror-filled eyes from across town. Loomis's jaw tightens. He drops the TV dial. Only static remains. A creak behind him. Loomis whirls, shotgun aimed at a corner shadow. Michael steps forward, mask gleaming, knife dripping with fresh blood from Bob Sims's body. Loomis squeezes the trigger. Buckshot tears into Michael's chest, but the masked shape remains standing, unfazed, unmoved. Loomis staggers back. "It can't die," he whispers. Michael advances, blade poised. Loomis pivots, firing again and again. Each blast splinters flesh that heals instantly. Michael's mask stares back, a void intent on slaughter. Loomis retreats, eyes darting for escape. He dashes down the staircase, descending into the living room drenched in shadows. Moonlight filters in through broken blinds. He ducks into the yard and lunges for his car keys, but a fresh wave of panic seizes him. From behind, Michael emerges silent, unstoppable. Loomis spins, lands a shotgun blast at point-blank range. Michael staggers but rights himself, walking to flames of fallen jack-o'-lantern as if unburned. Loomis points the shotgun and draws back the hammer, but Michael's hand clamps around his shoulder, cold and unyielding. Loomis fires once, holding on to the last slug. Michael crashes into him, and both collapse onto the grass. The shotgun discharges into the black sky as Loomis struggles. He rolls free, staggering to his feet. Michael stands, mask untouched by blood. Loomis steadies his breath, raising the empty shotgun. Michael lifts his knife. Loomis flinches, then lightning splits the sky, illuminating Michael's face for a brief moment. The storm's roar gives Loomis one last chance. He fires blindly into darkness. The shot echoes in the empty street. Michael falls, sliding into the ditch, unresponsive. Loomis stumbles to Michael's side, heart hammering. He checks for a pulse. None. Michael's mask lies cracked at his feet, revealing eyes still closed, almost peaceful. Loomis stares down to fallen shape, sensing both relief and dread. Behind him, sirens wail. Haddonfield's inhabitants finally rouse from sleep. As Loomis lifts Michael's inert body into the back of the Buick, he mutters, "Now I can rest. Evil dies tonight." But somewhere in the thunder's rumble, a new question echoes. How do you kill pure evil when it refuses to stay dead? Fun fact number 2. The iconic street chase at Haddonfield's heart was filmed on location in South Pasadena, California. Production designer Deborah Neal Fisher added realistic autumn leaves by hand and used a false grain overlay in post to simulate an authentic Midwestern October night. Laurie paces behind the Duncan house's front door, every heartbeat echoing in her ears. She grips a kitchen knife, knuckles white beneath her cardigan. The television in the living room flickers, casting shadows on the walls. Linda and Annie huddle under a blanket on the couch, eyes wide. Bob's body been removed, but the memory of blood still slicks the hallway tile. Laurie presses her back against the wall as the front door handle rattles. Michael Myers stands on the porch steps, mask gleaming white under the jack-o'-lantern's flicker. He raises his knife, silent, unblinking. Laurie's breath catches. "You stay back," she whispers, voice trembling. Michael steps forward. His blade arcs at Annie, who screams and backs into Laurie. Laurie lunges, slashing at Michael's arm. The blade cuts fabric and flesh. Red blooms on his forearm. Michael staggers but does not fall. He advances, eyes locked on Laurie's. She retreats down the hallway, dragging the overturned coffee table behind her as a barrier. Linda whimpers, clutching Annie's hand. The hallway's overhead light flickers, time stretching between breaths. In the master bedroom, Laurie spots her chance, a second-story window overlooking the narrow street. She grips the knife tighter. Michael crashes into the table with splintering. Laurie turns and bolts up the stairs, boots thudding against warped floorboards. Linda's scream follows her descent. Michael has cornered them. Above, Laurie yanks open a window and shoves aside a mosquito net. Moonlight spills onto her trembling face, revealing resolve hardened by terror. She peers down. The street is empty except for Loomis's car pulling up at the curb, headlights slicing through dark. A glance back. Michael emerges from the wrecked doorway, dripping blood, smoke from splintered wood curling from his coat. Laurie slides beneath the window ledge, dropping to the porch roof below. She reaches for a loose dormer shingle, prizing it free. In one hand, the shingle's edge sharp as glass. In the other, her kitchen knife. Footsteps thump on the hallway floor. Michael's form fills the window, huge, silent, inevitable. Laurie braces on the wood slats. As Michael steps onto the porch, she thrusts the shingle upward, slicing his shin. He roars, raising his knife, inching toward her. She leaps down from the roof to the narrow street, blade ready, adrenaline burning. Michael follows in a slow, measured stride, his silhouette monstrous against the plaster houses. Headlights flare as Loomis leaps from his car. Shotgun raised, he races toward them. Michael pauses, knife at the ready. Loomis yells, "Don't come any closer, Michael." Laurie backs toward Loomis, eyes wild. Michael tilts his head, the moment frozen between life and dread. Loomis fires, buckshot tearing at Michael's chest. Michael staggers, eyes flicking to Laurie. She stands, trembling, knife trembling. Michael advances through burning residue of the blast, jacket torn, shirt smeared with blood. Loomis reloads, voice ragged. It ends now. He aims again, but Michael is faster. He lunges at Loomis, knocking him against the car's hood. The shotgun clatters to frost-crusted pavement. Laurie screams as Michael pins Loomis's head, knife poised. Time yawns. In a final act of courage, Laurie hurls her knife at Michael's mask. The blade shatters fiberglass, a crack across the mask's face. Michael's head jerks, eyes behind the mask momentarily exposed. In that flicker, Laurie rushes forward, kicking Michael's arm and dislodging the knife. She stabs at his exposed eye socket, piercing an unseen nerve. Michael howls, staggering back. Loomis, shaken, pulls his pistol from his coat. He fires point blank, 2 shots into Michael's chest. The mask cracks, hairline fracture spiderwebbing across its surface. Michael collapses backward off the curb, limbs folding at impossible angles. He slides onto the street, mask resting on cracked asphalt, eyes closed yet still watching. Laurie and Loomis stand over him. Michael's chest remains motionless beneath torn fabric. Loomis lowers his pistol, voice a whisper. He's gone. Laurie bends, catching her breath, eyes glued to the lifeless form. In the distant hum of town, a police cruiser siren grows nearer, a promise that this night's terror has finally ended. Fun fact number 3. In the original theatrical cut, Michael Myers' final fall from the window was achieved with a stuntman riding a hidden behind-the-scenes wire. In some European releases, director John Carpenter digitally extended the shot to show Michael lying motionless on the pavement, ensuring no doubt remained of his defeat. In the pale glow of dawn, Haddonfield streets lie eerily silent. The wreckage of the Duncan house trusses against morning light. Window frames bloodless. Front porch splintered. Jack-o'-lanterns melted to dribbling orange pools. In the quiet aftermath, Sheriff Brackett and deputies cordon off the scene, stepping around shattered glass and a final, cracked fragment of Michael Myers' mask. Laurie Strode sits wrapped in a blanket in the back of an ambulance, eyes distant. The terror of the night has weighed on her, pressing down until she could barely breathe. Now, she breathes slowly, each inhalation a reminder that she's still alive. She clutches a shingle's broken edge in her fist, an odd trophy from her final stand. Paramedics fuss at her arm, where a graze from Michael's knife still throbs, but her mind drifts to faces of friends lost and screams hanging in dark hallways. Dr. Samuel Loomis stands a few yards away, leaning on his shotgun. His face is etched with exhaustion and a grim understanding. He pursued Michael across states and years, certain that one day the boy who killed his sister would emerge again. Now, he's seen Michael's body, motionless in the street beneath that fractured mask. Loomis's hand tightens on his weapon, not in triumph, but in weary vigilance. He knows evil can return and that tonight's victory may be fleeting. As police lights fade and residents emerge from hiding, Haddonfield's facade of normalcy fractures. Neighbors huddle on front porches, whispering about shattered innocence. Children peer from behind curtains, wide-eyed at the sight of ambulances and chalk-outlined footprints. Parents lock doors and check closets. What was once a safe, suburban haven now feels compromised, haunted. Laurie is led toward a waiting cruiser. Deputy Simmons offers a steadying hand as she steps into the back seat. The warmth of the engine is a comfort, yet her gaze lingers on Loomis, standing barefoot in the dew-soaked grass. The man who never abandoned his belief in killing Michael Myers. Their eyes meet, gratitude behind Laurie's tear-filled gaze, and in Loomis's, a sorrow that transcends relief. They both sense that the night's horrors will follow them like shadows. Later, in the station's narrow interview room, Laurie recounts every detail. The mask's empty stare, the knife's glint, her frantic flight down the streets. Her voice is calm yet distant, as though she describes events from another lifetime. Loomis watches from the doorway, his journal open on a desk where he scribbled notes since the moment he learned of Michael's escape. He understands that Laurie's ordeal will leave indelible scars. Her transformation from carefree teen to survivor forced into violent confrontation. In the days that follow, Haddonfield braces against rumors of Michael's return. The sheriff tightens patrols, neighbors organize watch groups, and children avoid the streets after dark. Laurie's life returns to a semblance of order. School resumes, but she juggles assignments with therapy sessions and police testimonies. Her friends rally around her, Annie and Linda offering quiet solidarity, but Laurie's eyes often drift to empty spaces, as though searching for shape and shadows. Loomis returns to Smith's Grove Sanitarium, determined to warn colleagues that evil can transcend incarceration, that Michael Myers' malice cannot be contained by walls or cells. He presses his case before the board. He will rise again. He is not a man, he is a force. But his words meet skepticism. Records show Michael dead, mask cracked and body cold. Loomis knows how conviction falters when proof becomes silence. He sets the final shard of mask on his desk, a reminder that evil is patient, waiting for the next fracture. In Haddonfield, children whisper Michael's name as a dare. Teenagers dare each other to visit the Myers house at midnight. An abandoned shell where dust motes drift in sunlit windows. Some see flickers of a white mask behind broken blinds. Others swear they hear footsteps in empty halls. Laurie hears these stories and feels a cold knot tighten in her chest. She locks her door, triple-checks windows, and sleeps with lights on, but in her dreams, she hears the scrape of a butcher knife against wood. On the anniversary of that blood-stained Halloween, Laurie visits the Duncan house. New tenants have moved in, families eager to erase the past. She stands in the living room where Michael first cornered her, sunlight filtering through fresh curtains. She recalls the terror, the rush of adrenaline, the inexplicable calm that let her fight back. In her hand, she holds a small bouquet of chrysanthemums, symbols of both death and rebirth. She places the flowers where the bloodstain once lay and steps back. The room is quiet, almost peaceful, yet Laurie's heart still races. She traces the outline of the broken coffee table with her eyes. Michael's empty mask is gone, removed as evidence, but his legacy remains etched into these walls. Laurie takes a final breath and turns toward the door. As she steps into the hallway, the temperature shifts. A breeze where no window stands open. In the corner of her eye, she thinks she sees a flash of pale white fabric. She blinks and it's gone. With steady steps, she walks down the street into a world reshaped by violence, themes and reflection. Halloween hinges on the fragility of suburban safety and the unknowable darkness lurking beneath familiar facades. Michael Myers embodies pure, unmotivated evil, an entity that, once unleashed, defies containment. Laurie Strode's transformation from teenage babysitter to resolute survivor underscores the human capacity for resilience when confronted with unimaginable horror. Her fight is both literal and symbolic, defying fear, asserting agency amid chaos, and refusing to surrender innocence to darkness. Dr. Loomis represents the burden of vigilance, a man haunted by one evil determined to prevent it from spreading. His relentless pursuit and fearful certainty speak to the weight of responsibility when confronting a threat that cannot be reasoned with or rehabilitated. Loomis's warning that evil dies tonight reflects fragile hope tempered by his knowledge that monsters can return. Haddonfield's veneer of normalcy cracks under the strain of Michael's rampage. Neighbors lock doors not only against criminal acts, but against the unsettling realization that pure malice can invade domestic comfort. The film's final moments, an ambiguous hint of Michael's survival, underscore that evil is cyclical, a pathological force that rises when complacency begins. Thank you for watching Slightly Spooky Stories for Sleep Movie Recaps. If tonight's visit to Haddonfield reminded you that evil can hide in quiet places, subscribe and tap the bell to explore more softly chilling tales. Until next time, stay aware and remember that some doors are best left locked.